Hey, before we get going with our main event, I want to show you around because we are in a very cool place. We're in the heart of downtown Toronto at Group Media TFO. They're a public broadcaster in Canada, and they have kindly let us use their stage. Look at this. It's called the LUV, which means Laboratoire d'Univers Virtuel or Lab for Virtual Universes, and they won a few awards for it. This is where they create amazing television programs, mostly for kids. This place is like magic. So Mark, our camera operator, will show you around our virtual set. So what they use here is an Unreal Engine-based system called Reality from Zero Density, which allows them to create live television programs kind of inside of a game. They create amazing content that kids love. So we have multiple cameras, but every video stream that you will see during the show is actually entirely processed with Unreal Engine, whether it's lens distortion, color correction, king compositing, all happening in the engine in real time. So before we get going, let's watch our demo reel one more time. Hello, and welcome to our Experience Design event. My name is Marc Petit. I'm the General Manager of the Enterprise Business at Epic Games. What we mean by enterprise at Epic is everything that is not a game. Our game engine, as you know, is widely available and accessible and free, so we have seen a lot of people starting to use it and experiment with it. We have close to 5 million users. Of course, some of them are making games, but we're seeing people making movies with it. Entire movies are made with Unreal and released in theaters. We're also using it for television, like we're doing today, or broadcast graphics or location-based entertainment. But also a lot of you are using it for visualization in architecture, in construction, in automotive, in aerospace. And of course, we see a lot of training and simulation going on with the engine. And maybe less expectedly, we're seeing a lot of usage in AI. AI companies are training machines and bots using Unreal. And we have also a few life science companies that are doing drug discovery with the engine. So, as you can see, what is driving all of those different users to Unreal? And that is the value of real time. There is not an exact definition of real time, but the way we look at it, it's the ability to generate the highest level of visual fidelity at a frame rate that is appropriate for a given platform. Real time is inherently efficient. You get to your results faster. You're likely to save a lot of money because you don't need a lot of those render farms and a lot of those computers. But also because results are instant, you can iterate more. And we all know that in content creation, more iteration is more quality. So with Unreal Engine, you can create your CG deliverable, your video content, much faster, but also cheaper and better. But that's not why people are excited about it. The key benefits of working in real time is interactivity. It's the difference between sitting back and leaning forward. People are much more engaged when they can interact with the content. They can explore at their own pace. They can understand things better. You can do you can do more dynamic presentation. It is a much improved way of communicating design intent or sharing your work with your clients, your prospects, your executives, or just even help people understand some sophisticated and complex mechanisms. And for this, you have all of the tools of game development available to you. You can use animation and physics and UI and events to create those very valuable, very compelling experiences. Also, the content can be made immersive. You can immerse the content into its environment, into its context with AR, or you can immerse yourself in the content with VR. But I want you to think about immersive very broadly, not just those HMDs. We have a lot of ways now, in very affordable way, to create a sense of immersion with large-scale display, especially when a group of people that still need to communicate is involved. So that is the value there. Real-time technology allow you to experience your design and tell the story of your design in a much more impactful and efficient way. But you guys understand that because you are doing it. So I want to take a minute to thank the 15,000 people who registered for our Datasmith beta program and helped us make it a better tool. Last week, we had the result of the CG Architect survey, and we are humbled by those results. A year ago, when we saw that 10% of the respondents were already using Unreal Engine in production, we were amazed. But now with the latest survey, it shows that that number has more than doubled. More than 20% of the respondents are using Unreal in production today, and another 40% declared that they intend to evaluate it. So how do we help all of you create this powerful, immersive, interactive experience? That's what we want to announce today, a new solution to help all of you, architects, engineers, visualization artists, to implement Unreal Engine in your production environment and start creating these amazing experiences. But to do this reveal, I need some help. So please welcome our Senior Product Manager, Pierre-Félix Breton.
Hi, Mark.
Pierre, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you. I'm sure people know you. You contributed so much to this community through your work on Max and on V-Ray, so
yes.
Thanks for being with us now.
Thanks. Well, now I'm really proud to be part of Epic Games. I work out of the Montreal office where we focus on bringing design visualization workflow to Unreal. And that's what I'm so happy to show this.
So
to
we
you.
have a big announcement to make today.
Yes, absolutely. Unreal Studio.
Yeah. So today we're announcing Unreal Studio. Unreal Studio is our answer to the question we get very often: is how can I use real-time workflows in architecture, design, and manufacturing? Unreal Studio has 4 components. The workflow tools that you need, and you know and you love already, Datasmith. The assets that you need to create that beautiful content. The learning tools that you need to understand and adapt these new workflows, because there is a lot of new thing in interactive content. And the support when you need it, because when you're in production, you need support. So 4 pillars of Unreal Engine. So let's go through them one by one.
Workflow.
Workflow.
So one of the challenges is to bring data in Unreal. Especially when you have design data that already exists in 3ds Max or other design package, when you have thousands of objects that you want to bring inside the Unreal Engine. So what we've created as a start is a couple things. So first of all, we've created a 3ds Max plugin that allows you to export an entire scene into Unreal, where we read materials, instances, lights, V-Ray proxies, materials, of course, and also all sorts of other assets that you may have in 3ds Max.
Cool. So if you set up all your scenes, because everybody does that, right? Set up their scenes for Max and V-Ray.
Yeah.
Can take it, boom,
ready
in Unreal Engine through Datasmith.
And there's really little work to be done once you're in Unreal.
Okay. Well, that's really fabulous because our beta users have reported some real massive productivity increments. I mean, people are talking of hours, but also days and sometimes weeks. Or it's the difference between making a project in VR and just not even thinking about it.
Exactly.
Cool. So that's Datasmith for scenes.
And then there's more. We have a CAD import plugins. So we're able to import Rhino data, CATIA data, SolidWorks, and about the 20 different types of file formats.
Okay. That's great. But when you get all of these objects in Unreal, you still need to do a lot of data preparation.
That's correct. So you may want to start substituting materials, creating level of details. There's all sorts of use cases where you will need to process a lot of different objects. So
if the data change, you have to redo it again, right?
That's right. So we need to make sure that we're non-destructive with that.
Okay.
So our first step into this direction is to create enable users with scriptability. So we've added Python. Python scripting will let you do all these operations on objects inside Unreal, but also Blueprint. So if you're not too much into Python, we can do this as well with Blueprint, which is a visual scripting language of Unreal.
Okay, so it means I can re-automate all the processing, all the data prep.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That's very powerful because the cost of data prep we're hearing all the time. The time you spend massaging the data, which is non-creative time, is really what's blocking people from using the engine.
Yeah. So we want to let you create your own recipes to treat your data and repeat
Okay.
over. Well.
That's all beautiful, but we all knew that already because it was all in Datasmith beta, right?
Yes. So we also have something else.
Oh.
We're working on a SketchUp plugin.
Absolutely.
So it's not only about Max or CAD, but we want to make sure that millions of SketchUp users can benefit from the same technology as well.
Yeah, we heard a lot about the SketchUp community, how they want to leverage VR. And so the SketchUp, everything's available today, but not the SketchUp plugin. It's going to be available in a few weeks, right?
That's correct.
And I also want to say that for our automotive customers and people in the manufacturing space, we're also doing work for DeltaGen and VRED to make sure that all of their existing system, really, we want to be able that you connect Unreal Studio to your existing pipeline, and it's basically be able to take any kind of data that you have into VR. So that's our first pillar. That's the workflow. Second pillar is assets, because now when you're in the engine,
you want to make beautiful results and interact with it.
Yep.
So there's two things that we're doing here. We're partnering with Algorithmic, so that out of the box with Unreal Studio, you have over 100 presets that are algorithmic substances, which are procedural and parametric presets to do all sorts of beautiful materials that are suitable for design visualization. So we've selected fabric, ceramics, and so on. And then we're also creating a project template that will let you really easily get into VR in about one click. So all the logic to handle Oculus Rift controls as well as HTC Vive is in there. Even desktop navigation will be built in as well. And so all you have to do is import, hit play, and already be in VR in about 2 clicks. So
all of this navigation and inspection, all of this is made for you?
Yes. So, but it's not closed box. You can open it up. It's all done in Blueprint. So it's also made with the intent for you to change it and learn from it, of course.
Okay, so you start from there. You can extend it and make something that's your own experience. So that's going to be very helpful. So the third component of Unreal Studio are the learning aids, because we understand that interactive content brings a lot of new concept. The ability to tell stories in a 3D environment and with navigation. So we're going to make a lot of content available, a lot of video classes content available initially on Vimeo, and then a little bit later in the spring, we'll deploy our learning management system to help everybody, track their progression and learn, and get into this brave new world of interactive content. So what kind of classes are we going to have in there?
We want to make sure that the classes covers workflows that are really relevant for design visualizations. Making material changes, opening a door, or that sort of interaction is the kind of things we want to teach users to do.
Yeah, really cool and really valuable. And the last part of Unreal Studio is a new support offering that we've included in it. We have a new website that is now available because when you're in production, sometimes you need that support. So you'll have a very well-populated knowledge base so that you can, by yourself, get quickly to the answers that you need. You'll have discussion forums when you can ask questions, and we expect a large contribution from the community, but we will also have our Montreal team, all those guys up there.
Yes, so we're working with a team of veterans that work in their entire life in the game industry, that know the engine inside out, great technical artists, great engineers that are there to help out as well.
Yeah, so discussion forums, and we'll have a ticketing system in case you find a blocking issue. We'll be there to support you and help get to your deliverable. So there you have it, it's Unreal Studio. So the announcement of today is about the free open beta of Unreal Studio. Unreal Studio is available right now. You can go and register at unrealengine.com/studio, and it will remain in free open beta at least until November 1st. And then we'll make sure that it becomes a very affordable subscription plan after that, because we're seeing so much demand and so much use for interactive content that we want to make sure that it's available to all of you. So that's our announcement for today. So PF, thank you very much for sharing this big news.
Thank you.
With everybody, and I suggest we start looking at it now.
All right.
All right, so we have Chris Murray with the first demonstration of Unreal Studio and Datasmith.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, PF. Hi, my name is Chris Murray, and I'm the Senior Technical Marketing Manager for Unreal Engine Enterprise. We're going to be taking a look at some of the things that Mark and PF were just talking about, and that's the Datasmith workflows within Unreal Studio. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I want to start off with the virtual set here. This is just another view of this great set. Thanks to my colleagues at Epic for really doing a great job on this set. Before we actually begin creating Unreal Studio projects, I want to show you what's new in the project browser. You'll notice under the new project tab, there is another new tab called Unreal Studio. And this is where you're going to create your Unreal Studio projects that are going to give you access to the Datasmith workflow tools. So this and also some other templates that are going to be coming your way shortly. The first one we have for you is a product viewer template, which is going to give you the ability to do interactive product viewing experiences just by a couple of changes to scene directory and scene structure. But let's go ahead and actually jump into something that's probably a little bit more aligned with what you're used to working with, and that's design visualization or AEC workflows. I'm actually going to go ahead and start with the end. This is the final product of something that our friends at Litrix gave us. I want to thank them for sharing with us these assets. This is where we're headed. I'm going to show you how we got here with Datasmith and how we can move things through the pipeline. It all starts back in 3ds Max. So let's jump back to 3ds Max, and you can see I have the same scene here. We have a couple of different pieces of furniture. Thanks to Turbo Squid for that. But we're basically the same thing, and we're going to go ahead and move this through the entire Datasmith pipeline. A lot of people always ask me, they say, hey, I want to see this live. Can you show this to me live? So we're actually going to do that today. Since we are a little bit time constrained, though, I'm going to go ahead and turn off all of the 3D entourage, but we're going to send over the environment so that you can see the whole process and see what happens. So we're just going to quickly hit File, Export, and make sure that I'm in the Datasmith format. We'll do Live 8, and we're just going to go ahead and export the visible objects. So what's actually happening behind the scenes? Well, the whole purpose of Datasmith is to make the on-ramp into Unreal Engine as easy as possible. We want it to be as frictionless as it can be so that you can get to work quickly in Unreal Engine without having to redoing a ton of work. What's happening is we're converting, obviously, geometry, because that's where everything starts. We're converting textures, materials, lights, surface properties. What's going on in the materials is that if, in this case, it's a Corona scene. So we have Corona materials, we have Corona lights. All of those assets are being converted or translated into Unreal usable assets. Physical cameras, physical lights will come over. If you have IES files in your lights, those are supported. So we want to maintain as much fidelity to the original scene as possible. One of the advantages of Datasmith is that it gives you the ability to have a more informed design process. We want to close the iteration loop. We want to make it interactive. We want to make it beautiful. And we want to make it immediately usable by you to show your clients and customers and really give you an advantage in doing all types of visualization at any scale. So we can see that our export is now complete. I'm going to go ahead and pop back over to Unreal Engine. I already have an empty level set up, so we're going to go ahead and just import it. And again, here's the Datasmith button you can see at the top of the interface, and this again is part of the Unreal Studio project process. So I'm going to choose Live 8. We're going to open it, and I'll leave it in that folder. That's fine. We're presented with a couple of options, geometry, materials, lights, or textures. We can decide whether we want to bring those in. I generally bring things in piecemeal. I like to work with different things at different times. You can export it all, or you can bring it in all at once, your choice. The other nice thing is that we have the choice of light map resolution. And what that means is that Datasmith is automatically generating light map UVs for you. So you're not having to reuse texture UVs. Maybe you're working with geometry that came from a number of different sources. So Datasmith automatically generates those UVs that you can then use in the light baking process in Unreal Studio. Okay, so we can now see that our geometry has come in. I'm going to go ahead and quickly navigate over to the same place where we were in the room, just so we can see how this all comes in. The shaders are going to build here. We haven't really done anything. We haven't had to reapply textures. Datasmith has done all that for us. All the geometry comes in the same place, right where we left it in 3ds Max. The directory structure is a very familiar directory structure. We respect the Scene Explorer. So all of those assets have been brought in just as you would expect to see. We haven't done a light bake. I still haven't brought in the Corona lights, but as you can see from the final version, let me go ahead and go back to that. All of those have been brought in, and everything looks just like we had in 3ds Max. So again, the advantage of Datasmith here is that it's getting us into Unreal Engine quickly, smoothly, and allows us to quickly experience our design, all while maintaining fidelity to the source. The last thing that I want to leave you with is to switch over to a project on a little bit of a different scale. I want to thank Bertrand Benoit for sharing this with us. This is an amazing Atrium piece that he's been working on, and all of this was generated with i2Soft's Rail Clone. This was all brought in through Datasmith. Datasmith supports i2Soft's Rail Clone and Force Pack Pro and allows you to create really large-scale scenes very quickly and with great playback performance. So again, thanks to Bertrand for sharing this with us. I'll be back in a few minutes to talk about some manufacturing workflows with Datasmith, but for right now, I'm going to hand it back over to Mark.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. That was Datasmith in action, and Chris is going to be back for more after this conversation here, and he will show you all about CAD workflows. But for the moment, we're extremely lucky to have this gentleman with us who are pushing the envelope in Datasmith, Unreal Engine, and real-time visualization at large. So thank you very much, guys, for being there with us. Yep. And I will let you introduce yourselves.
Sure, yeah, so I'm glad to be here. I'm Rod Recker. I'm the CTO for the Glimpse Group. Glimpse Group is a New York City-based AR and VR startup. We have several businesses that we're building focused on augmented reality and virtual reality. So I'm also the GM of one of those businesses, Glimpse Consulting. And so we used Unreal on a project that we'll talk about in a minute.
Cool, well, thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. I'm Greg Schleusner, Director of Design Technology at HOK. HOK is a global architecture and engineering firm. I'm responsible for implementing new technologies in the firm.
Well, thanks for being here, and then everybody know that how big HOK is and a leader in our industry, so we're very happy to have you with us.
Thank you.
My name is Jason Briney. I'm the creative lead at the Detroit office of Macavision. And Macavision might be more known for its visual effects works than Game of Thrones, but the bulk of our work is kind of in the automotive space. We produce high-end quality imagery for catalog work, broadcast pieces, configurable web imagery, and now VR using the Unreal Engine.
Absolutely, yeah. People may not know, but Macavision is kind of a behind the scene in the automotive industry, driving a lot of innovation in marketing and retail. So we're very proud to have you. And congratulations on the Accenture acquisition. It's a big vote of confidence, right?
Yes, thank you.
All right, why don't we start by talking about some of your projects that you've been doing lately, Rod?
Sure, yeah, so the most recent project was a very complex project involving a basketball arena simulation. And so this was a project that we did with Intel. And so their goal was to show how their products, their latest hardware could be used not only in the playback, but more importantly on the production side and save time, during the production piece. And so we were able to simulate the stadium, but we were also able to add 2,500 animated characters, to the stadium.
2,500 animated characters in VR.
Well, actually 2/3 are animated. Only a third is, static. But
that's impressive.
Yeah, so we worked with a lot of partners, HOK being one of them. They gave us the initial model that we were able to work with, but we were able to. It's nearing completion right now, and so we're excited to show it off next.
And you're happy with performance?
Yeah. I think performance, both in terms of the hardware on the production side helps, but also the performance of Datasmith and and the ease of use we've seen in the editor as well. I think for us, performance is about overall throughput during the project. And so it's, certainly on the back end, that's critical, but which Unreal gives us a lot of options, for achieving that. But more importantly, what we're trying to show here is, performance improvement through the whole production cycle.
Okay. So that stadium you designed, right? HOK?
Yeah, it's actually coming out of our Kansas City office. We actually did an early version of this project that we had 2 weeks to do that turned into a week.
Oh my God.
And we got something to the client for a picnic event. We would have not been able to do any of that without Datasmith. I think we got some interactivity and shoot your own basketball for the players and those sort of things.
Wow.
But we're also doing all kinds of other projects. One of the ones that's most recent is an airport new terminal expansion, where we're basically doing max V-Ray directly into engine, and the visual fidelity is great. That's going into a VR use case, but we're doing a lot of both V-Ray 2 for different reasons right now.
Okay. These are big models, right? Airports.
Yeah, this particular project is actually pretty small for an airport, but I wouldn't know the number of triangles that we tried to force it the first time, but it took us quite a bit of effort to get anything to work the first time on the stadium we gave to Rod, or the arena we gave to Rod. So.
And how did this work out for you, going from max V-Ray to Unreal?
Oh, I think it's, well, first of all, it wouldn't have been possible in the time frames, but I think we're very happy with the approach and how it works and functionality. I will say it's a great number of people that are not me, so they're basically the ones that are the magicians behind all this work.
Absolutely,
but definitely they're liking the workflow.
Cool. So Jason, what about Machivision?
So Machivision, I'll talk about 2 projects. The first one, we do a series, they're called the Performance Institute Animations for FCA, and these are videos 1 minute long or so that highlight all the different features and technologies that are on their vehicles, and it's used at dealerships for showing both the dealers and the consumers, how these new technologies work. And so we traditionally did that using Max and V-Ray, and then recently ported all those over to Unreal. And the second project I want to talk about is Maserati video experience that we created for them. And so you go through the normal website doing, building your vehicle out, the colors, the trims, and all of that. And then at the very end, there's this link that says download custom video, and you get, within a very short amount of time, you get your own customizable video showing everything that you just built out on the website.
That's amazing.
And it's really fantastic, and we couldn't have done it without the Unreal Engine.
That's cool. So basically, you're taking your traditional offline rental workflow and you're just turbo boosting this in real time.
Absolutely.
To create videos.
Yep.
And then you do these new marketing tools like personalized videos.
That's the most important thing. You can now deliver like targeted, personalized content.
So everybody can go create their own Maserati video on the web now?
That's right.
Wow, wonderful. So I heard a few familiar names, Max V-Ray. Can you just speak very quickly to your pipelines?
Sure. Yeah, so our pipeline with this project, it started with Max, so with the model that we got there. We did some lighting, materials, clean up the model a bit, and then using Datasmith very quickly, push that into the editor. The nice thing that we're seeing with the editor now is there's a lot of tools are becoming available for us to use in the editor. So we also had a V-Ray component of this, where we're actually in the VR experience activating a V-Ray render. So it was important that we see how that looks, and so that'll be an interesting thing to see once we make the whole thing public. The other thing that we did there as well is we brought in the animated characters using a product called Anima, and so we were able to bring that in. We only in Anima did about 400 of the characters, and then we were very quickly in the editor able to replicate them and flesh out the full, 2,500. And so that made it easy.
Don't feel bad. That's what they do on Game of Thrones,
yeah,
right?
I know. But it was great to just see how easy that was, and have, again, the workflow in there. And then finally, we did a lot of optimization work in the engine using a great product called Instalod. Yep. And so they're also in, the editor as well as Max. But the fact that everything's right there made it a lot easier for our animators, and so it was great. Yeah.
So ours is, you might not call it a workflow or a pipeline yet, but we have a lot of models that come from a lot of sources, Rhino, SketchUp, Revit, Max, certainly AutoCAD even in certain areas. So most of the stuff is coming through Max and is assembled in Max, and then we're using either rendering in Max and then using Datasmith to move things across from there. That's basically how we did our version of what Rod's talking about. On the different application side, we tend to standardize on V-Ray from a still rendering standpoint, so that tie-in makes that a very nice, sort of sequence of things that we would like to put together, and we're working to put together. We still have challenges around huge amounts of geometry or over modeling and these sort of things. Of course, we are modeling for different purposes and not necessarily always for visualization. So, but those are the areas we're working on right now, and certainly like the capabilities that we've been given for Datasmith, because otherwise these are not possible.
The automation of data prep and those things. So, and we're just starting, by the way. You can expect a lot more in terms of automation and reducing that overhead of data prep. Actually, it's one of our goals. So.
So, like these guys, we traditionally we're using Max V-Ray pipeline for our rendering, and as clients do, we're asking things for a little bit faster. So we looked at the Unreal Datasmith pipeline for that, and it saved us a ton of time. Datasmith was able to port all of the 6 really detailed environments over into the engine, and we're running through all the different vehicles in the FCA fleet through there. All their different variations, and we're just able to iterate very quickly through that pipeline. And for the Maserati project, Unreal basically gave us the ability to do this. I mean, if you try to think about configuring a vehicle on the web and then just hitting a button and getting your vehicle right away, that's just not possible without something like Unreal. And just having the ability to get at the source code and modify things to our liking, like we really wanted to tweak the motion blur settings in there and make sure that it was looking as close to filmic quality that we could get. So it's very, very good.
Yeah, it's actually crazy when you think about it. People purchasing $250,000, $500,000 cars, making all of their decisions on the output of a game engine. So the testament to your work in terms of the believability and the quality of the content. So that's cool. So we talked a lot about existing stuff, but I think interactive content and immersive content is opening new ground. So I was interested to hear from you. What's the most advanced things you're thinking of or you've seen out there? How do you break away from traditional linear content and really leverage interactive content?
Yeah, I think the biggest opportunity we're seeing right now is in VR-based training for enterprise. And so they're having something that's interactive is obviously very important, but just as important is making sure that it looks good. And we know Unreal delivers on that side as well. And so having that ability to really immerse people and make them really feel like they're training with a piece of equipment, and not playing with a toy is critical. And so we know we can do that with Unreal. So that's what we're looking at doing next.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for us, I mean, the places we're seeing the greatest benefit are where we see clients that, sort of had 10 minutes for a meeting, but I have, spent an hour in a VR environment just investigating things. So that's definitely the places we see the most sort of benefit of these sort of workflows.
That's a very significant difference in engagement, right?
Yeah, I mean, these are CEOs and those sort of things that don't typically, have that much time. So that sort of engagement is wonderful. The place we're definitely looking long-term is around, a simulator for X. Our hospitals, we want to be able to train a nurse based on the design we did and customize those things easily to deliver those experiences across all our markets. So that's definitely the place beyond visual quality, those other interactive experiences to help move the business forward.
Wonderful.
For Macavision, we look, like if you look at the dealerships around the United States, we have cars all over the lot. You can walk in and try the different ones. But if you think about dealerships, in Europe or Asian countries, they don't have all that space. So you can use the VR technologies to basically put people in the vehicle they're about to order and purchase, and they can really feel it. And there's just nothing like being able to reach out and change your configurations while you're in the vehicle, push start and you hear the engine roar, and it's just much more personal and almost tactile in the engine.
We've heard, the way transforming the retail experience in car, and it helps. It's not just gimmicky. It's great for the user, but it helps sell a lot more accessories because people start to fit their car with all those bells and whistles, and they never take them off.
That's right.
And you push the bill button, and there it is. So it's really impacting greatly the business. So. Well, I'm glad to hear all those stories. I mean, we're very fortunate to have you guys as users of Unreal Engine, and this notion of experiencing design is very important to us, and we want to make this accessible to a large number of people. So, thank you very much for being there.
Yeah, thanks for having
And
us.
keep on doing it and keep on giving us feedback and keep on guiding us to a much better world. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So now we're going to go back to Chris, and Chris is going to show us more about Datasmith and CAD workflows.
Thanks, Mark. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the CAD workflows with Unreal Studio and Datasmith. A lot of times, CAD projects have completely different project requirements than a typical design visualization project. Although you probably are working with maybe hundreds or thousands of objects, a lot of times these objects are purpose-built and being built for the purposes of fabrication and manufacturing, not visualization. So frequently they don't have UVs, they probably don't have any textures, your scene may or may not have lights. How do we merge these two streams in Unreal Engine? And that's where Datasmith comes in. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of simple CAD workflows. I have a nice scene here from our friends at Rizoma Bikes. They've given us this asset to show, and it's really great. We're going to take a look at how we work with some of this. So here's where things really start upstream. It starts in a CAD application. This is a good example of the bike. I'm using a SolidWorks viewer here, and we can see that there's a lot of objects. There's a lot of mesh density. This particular bike has about 65 parts, but of course we know, if you're doing automotive work, those are probably, thousands of parts, maybe tens of thousands of parts. It really just depends on the industry. There's no real way to tell. So how are we going to get these things into Unreal Engine? So I'm going to go ahead and pop over to an empty scene here, and we'll do import CAD. And there's a little drop down here that allows you to differentiate between the two, where we were working with Datasmith for design visualization projects coming from 3ds Max. That's one thing. And then importing CAD is a separate thing. The difference between these two is importing CAD gives us access to over 20 different file formats, frankly more than 20 different file formats, from all different types of CAD applications, whether it's Pro-E, Inventor, SolidWorks, CATIA, PTC. All of these CAD formats, you're going to be able to ingest them into Unreal Engine and immediately begin using them. So we'll go ahead and import this object. I'm just going to bring it in real quick. And very similar to the importing process with design visualization data, CAD data allows you to import geometry and materials and textures and lights and cameras if your application has that. But where it differentiates itself is in the tessellation options. We have several easy-to-use tessellation options, and what this is going to do is this is going to actually generate the topology that's on the surface of your model. So if you're working maybe in parasolids and everything is parametric, or you're working with splines or some type of NURB-like object, all of those surfaces are going to be polygonized and brought into Unreal Engine. So we'll go ahead and do file import, and this will come in super quick, and there's our part. Now, obviously, since I'm doing this live, I've only picked one part, but you may be working with tens of thousands of parts. And so the process is going to vary based on the size of your project. One thing I think is really important to take note of is once we actually get into Unreal Engine, we can actually see that the UVs have been automatically generated. So if I open up the static mesh editor and I go to the UV dropdown, I can see that the UVs have automatically been generated for us on UV channel 1. And this is important because there may be CAD applications where you've been working in 3D, all your career and never had to generate a UV. Well, if you want to get into real time, Datasmith solves that for you by automatically generating the UVs when you come in. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to jump back to a final version of the CAD bike that's been brought in. And we can see that this is what's been brought in. We haven't had any of the textures put on there. We used our automotive textures for the first bike that we saw. In fact, let's go ahead and jump back over to that. And we can see that here's the bike, here's the automotive textures. It looks great. One thing that's really important to note is that all of your scene hierarchy has been maintained over here. So even though we have very specific part numbers, we've organized them into a method that really kind of gives us a better understanding of what is in the scene. The other thing that's really important to realize about Datasmith for CAD is that we give you a series of tools that are going to automate a lot of processes, especially when you're working with part counts several orders of magnitude over this. Because of this, we've implemented the ability to use Python scripts. So I have a simple Python script here. I'm not going to go ahead and execute a ton of Python scripts because frankly, it's not that exciting. But you can definitely see that we can grab any one of these parts that we want to change. And in this particular case, we're able to merge them into one actor. We provide a number of different sample scripts where you can do things besides merging actors. You can do material replacements. You can auto-generate LODs. You can do object combinations, scene manipulations. Any of these things that you're going to want to change on potentially thousands of objects can all be automated through Python. The other real advantage of this is that this is a repeatable process. We know that people that are working with CAD data are often frequently updating their assets, so we want to make the re-import process easy. Maybe you have different variants of parts. Maybe you have different variants of surface topologies or materials. We want to make sure that you don't have to redo a ton of that work in Datasmith, and that you can automate some of those fixes or changes or updates using Python. Another thing that users of Datasmith for CAD are going to be interested in is the new product viewer template. The product viewer template is really cool because it does a couple of things. One, it's a template, so you can load it up, you can learn from it, you can customize it, you can pick it apart and make it your own tool. The other thing you can do with it is it has the ability to create interactive experiences both in desktop and VR. So you can set up object interactions, you can grab things, you can manipulate them, pull them apart. It has X-ray mode so that you can adjust the visibility of certain objects and inspect your objects in entirely different ways. It gives you the ability to adjust visual scale. So you can be, the size of an ant, or you can be the size of a giant inspecting your objects. So the product viewer template is just the first asset that we're delivering in a stream of many more to come. So whether you're coming from ProRe, or whether you're coming from Inventor, or any number of other CAD applications, if you want to get into real-time, Datasmith is going to make that process a whole lot easier. Mark, back to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. That was a great presentation. So again, Unreal Studio is our answer to how can I use real-time workflows in architecture, design, and manufacturing. Once again, it has all the workflow tools that you need with Datasmith. It has all the assets that you need to accelerate the results, the learning ads that you need to adopt those new workflows, and support when you need it. Unreal Studio is available as a free open beta as of now. You can go on and register at unrealengine.com/studio. And I wish you happy experiences, and I will see you on the discussion forums.